I wasn't holding on, which is weird because I'm really type A and super controlling about things, but I just felt like I was just letting this beautiful art happen. And I'm just so, there's not a chill bone in my body. This, by the way, I am not chill at all. Like, I am freaking out all the time about this. So it was an amazing experience. Yeah.
Nikki, I'm going to start with you since this sort of starts with you. When you were doing the podcast that this series is based on, were you getting a lot of people, dare I say, sniffing about for this story? Or like how much interest were you sort of getting? And when did the idea of potentially taking the story into another medium start to enter your space?
That's a great question because I haven't thought about that in such a long time. It was so long ago, right, when Molly and I first started recording. By the way, thanks for being here, everybody. I'm so grateful. Like, I love you all, and just being together is such a gift. So thank you for being here. But when we first started recording, we had tried to pitch it to some production companies as an idea for a show because we kind of thought there was something really magical. And everyone kept saying, this is such a great idea. And we'd say, great, can you give us some money? And they were like, this is such a great idea. So we then just decided to start recording ourselves. And I think a lot of people were afraid a little bit to dive into death and sex because, quite frankly, advertisers don't gravitate towards death and sex. Like, what are the ad sales going to be? Like, people were thinking that. And luckily we paired up with Wondery, which took a beautiful risk and then helped us bring our recordings into a real limited series. So it was bumpy, but the people that were interested were the people that were meant to be in it with us. I felt like every time we found a new partner along the way, there was like a spiritual understanding that we were all in this risky storytelling adventure together. So.
And to that end, Michelle and Kim, I'd ask you, did you have any feelings of being afraid of the death element? And how did you overcome that? Or were you instantly comfortable with it and that being why you were the right people? But kind of what was did you have that experience at all when you heard about the story?
Well, I'll jump in first because this podcast, this beautiful podcast, which if you like the show, you have to listen to the podcast because it's absolutely glorious, came to me through my really like friend of 20 years, Liz Merriweather, who I'd worked with on many projects, and we'd known each other forever. And she called me. She had optioned the podcast. She had met with Nikki right before the world shut down in March 2020. It was the last meeting any of them had in person. And she called me, and she said, I know, like, we're all in a really dark time right now, but would you want to listen to this podcast? It's about a woman dying of cancer. And I was like, I don't think that's what I need right now. I'm going to watch, like, the cooking shows and the reality dancing shows like that. Like, I don't think that's not the right vibe. And she was like, but she also has a sexual awakening. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So give me the link. And then I listened to it and I was like, yes, it's scary. Yes, death is scary, but actually death ended up being so much more to me than I now think of it in a completely different way because of the podcast, because of this story. And so I became less scared of it as I kept pushing deeper into it and working on this show. So that's my answer.
Well, similarly, I mean, when it came to me, and this was after your guys' collaboration, and I think it was a single script, I think it was a single episode. I hadn't listened to the podcast, but I had this script, and then I had your guys' letters about like what the podcast meant to you, and immediately I just thought, well, they're the same kind of weirdo as me, and I love this. Like, whatever it is that they're talking about and what this is drummed up for them, this is where I want to go next. And then I listened to the entire podcast and was obliterated by it, but also mystified by it. I was like, why am I so moved by this thing? And now I kind of know what it is. It has, like you said, it has changed the way that I think about dying. And it has opened up a possibility that for me, like when, not to get too, I know it's like before noon, but like, bad news, it's coming for all of us. And how will I meet that? And can I open up a spaciousness to, while in the midst of all of the other things, like I think for Molly, like she wasn't just going to be a diagnosis and a cancer patient, and she had her mind made up that she was going to continue to be all of the Molly that she could be. And what an incredible challenge to give to ourselves. I don't know that I can meet it, but I think about it now.
It's funny, I had actually scribbled down to myself that I was going to end on asking everybody how you thought about death now. So it's better that we got to it now, because then we'll end on something a little bit lighter, perhaps. But something that stuck out to me when you said that they had the letters that they sent to you with the script about what it meant, is that to you something that's normal when people send you scripts or ideas or pitches, or was that something unique to Kim and Liz's process with it?
You know, sometimes you'll get letters about what inspired the person to make this the next piece of work in their life. And, you know, and really I think it's about, like, what is the deeper meaning behind this thing? It's not just a thing. It's trying to see how far it can go, and how much it can live inside people's hearts and minds, and if it can cause any vibrational shift for an audience member. And when I read what they were thinking about and what it meant to them, I was like, oh yeah, that's my next evolution. Like, that's where I would like to go there. And I'm so, like, just drag me along, and I want that ride.
We were writing like an embarrassing love letter to Michelle, and we were like,
"Oh
no!"
What did it say?
It was I still have it in my email. And we had a couple drafts, and like we were like, should we say that because it's Michelle Williams? Like what? Like we have to sort of seem chill and cool, but we want to talk to her so badly, and you know, I remember we were like, we're just gonna put it all out there, and
We talked about having sex and farting at the same time.
And then the miracle was that it's kind of like what Nikki was saying. Michelle came on the Zoom, and instantly it was like, oh, we found another one. Okay, like another person that like just inherently understands this and like is already in it without ever having talked about it together. Just it's like what you're saying. The show kind of collected its people as we went along, and my like woo woo part of me is like, I do feel like that's a little bit like Molly, like her blessing and presence on this. I know, but like you could feel it, like so.
Also an interesting lesson, too, that maybe we don't ever have to be chill and cool, that it's actually, right? we think that, and then what people connect to is just, like, putting yourself out there like that.
It was like, how on earth would we ever get Michelle? This was like we did not think this was going to happen. Like, you know, it was like, yeah, sure, Meryl Streep will be in this show. Like, we were like, we have to shoot our shot. Like, we have to do everything we can to get her on just one Zoom if we could just talk to her. So yeah, that was, don't be chill and cool was the lesson.
Cool. Nikki, what was the experience like of both watching, we'll talk about Jenny Slate a little bit, watching someone embody a version of you versus watching Michelle embody a version, kind of bring back your friend, if that's what it felt like. Like, kind of, how did those two things compare to each other?
It's I don't know if I've ever told you this, but there was a moment after shooting where I said to my husband, like, I'm having some interesting feelings. Like, I really miss Michelle. Like, I miss her. Like, I was so emotional about it. And he said, well, that's because she's your version of Molly now. So I was having these deep, griefy feelings about not being able to see her each day on set and touch her and look at her face. And I realized it was that what was happening was that. So you're stuck with me now, girl.
Forever.
Right? So I just, I think watching this version of Dying for Sex with Jenny and Michelle felt like, just selfishly and privately, it felt like a new layer of love and a new layer of grief and a new layer of expression. And I was so proud of it, and I was so deeply moved by how hard and fast they dove into the characters. So I just very much was grateful for that. And there was no judgment. I wasn't holding on to, well, this was true and this wasn't. I was so grateful for the colors and the beautiful strokes that Kim and Liz painted with, and the way that she beautifully acted Molly. And I wasn't holding on, which is weird because I'm really type A and super controlling about things, but I just felt like I was just letting this beautiful art happen. And I'm just so, there's not a chill bone in my body. This, by the way, I am not chill at all. Like, I am freaking out all the time about this. So it was an amazing experience. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you what your purse is like? Do you have a capital B bag of your own?
I do not have a big ass bag filled with a bunch of stuff. But my husband was like, have you seen the trunk of your car? And have you seen the desktop of your computer? And I was like, oh my God, it's such a mess. Like, my desktop is, nothing's filed right, nothing has a name. It's like qqrp.by. And he's, what's that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just a document. Open it up if you want to see what it is. And it's like, this file can't be opened. And so Jenny's purse is my computer in my trunk. Things on the way to Goodwill. So there are a lot of similarities between the two. But I do hate Shakespeare, which I thought was hilarious. That I was in Shakespeare. I hate Shakespeare. Isn't that so funny? So I actually, I don't hate it. I just wouldn't go buy a ticket to see it unless I'm in London, right? Unless I'm in London. But oh my gosh. Sorry, I need to shut up.
Now things are getting spicy
already.
But I did think it was amazing that they made Jenny this Shakespeare-loving actress, and I was like, that's perfect. I loved the differences so much, almost as much as the similarities, actually.
For some reason, when we shifted the show, at first it was set in LA, and then we shifted it to New York once we knew that Michelle was going to be in it. And it was, for some reason, we were like, well, now Nikki has to do Shakespeare because that's what actors in New York do. And that is not true at all. But like it felt right. But Nikki is, like, just to say, like, Liz and I had her trust and her generosity. The way that Nikki was with this story, which is so deeply personal and real for her, and still grief is coursing through her, like, the way that she would just get on the phone with us at any moment and mine painful experiences from her life, or just to give us details for scenes and like anything we needed, and at the same time totally giving us the freedom to make this show its own thing, and to build out these characters, to create new stories, and it was not a biopic, and we always, the fact that we had Nikki is what allowed us to do that, because not everyone would have been this. It's very rare to have this kind of generosity and collaboration from someone who has already made it and knows what it is and literally lived it. Like, she could have been fact checking us the whole way through, and never, not even once. It was beautiful. The only time is, I think I made your boyfriend's name your brother's name.
And I was like, that's creepy.
You were like, can you change that name? And I was like, yeah, no problem. I understood.
Michelle, how would you describe the vibe on set? I'm curious about kind of the mixture of joy and sadness and heaviness and laughter that was in the show, and how that kind of, in those heavier scenes, what it was like, and just kind of how you guys all moved through the emotions of what you were playing.
Well, I think underlying everything are two things on this. I think really what you're there to do is build a bonfire and around the love that these two women shared, and to let everybody else experience that warmth. So that's a guiding principle. And the other guiding principle is, we feel so honored to go to work and to have this material to work with. So underneath the things that, yes, on the day-to-day level, they might feel like, oh, I feel vulnerable, or I feel sad, or I feel emotional, or I feel whatever feelings I'm having. But the real base layer of that is expressing the friendship between these two women and the gratitude to have this material. So that is really what suffuses and tempers the emotionality of it.
Something that really struck me when you mentioned that you had written this show to be in LA, and then Michelle came on board, and so you changed it to New York. And is that the kind of, because it also is really striking to me that this show is made by so many women, and I assume that you did that because your family, your home life needed you to be in New York. And is that probably came to you like, oh, duh, of course we'll do that. But like, I don't know, that still feels like something that wouldn't necessarily always be the answer or be easy to do or be what you're offered in a job. But correct me if I'm wrong, if that's.
I think it was a lot of moms making this show, and actually a lot of moms of daughters, which I think was a big, really interesting thing, because a lot of the show is about like this woman who is trying to heal herself and put herself back together with her child self, who was the last time she inhabited her body and felt joy and felt confidence and felt like truly alive. So we all have these like little girls running around, and I think I will just say it's amazing to make shows with fellow moms, and like there are things that you normally would have to ask for that you don't feel at all weird asking for. And I think Michelle set such a beautiful tone in that regard as number one on the call sheet, an EP, the star of the show, also a really just caring, giving person who's constantly aware of the parents on in the process and what they need. And yes, we moved the show to New York because of what Michelle's family needed. And then along the way, we took care of everybody else's families like that. But it starts from the top. And, I think it's such a gift. I was able to bring my daughter to set, and because our producer, who's also a mom, found a way for me to have a babysitter there the whole time. Our director, Shannon, her daughter was also there with a babysitter. These girls were on set, this doesn't normally happen. This has to happen this only happens when you have the right people involved. And I credit Michelle with, she set up a beautiful playroom.
We made an IKEA room.
One day I went up there and every day it said, it was like the most beautiful preschool. Every day it said, welcome to whichever children happened to be there. Their names were on the board. I don't know who figured that out, but Michelle just made that happen. So again, she's incredible in the ways that we all know, but as an actor, but just as a human being and as the leader of this show, of this cast, an incredible person, just a wonderful human. Sorry.
No.
Yeah. And when one person does that, it allows the next person to do it. You have to see someone doing that to know that you can do that and what you can ask for. You know?
Michelle, and of course, if there's anything you want to react to in Kim's, but I wanted to know too, did you see people doing that when you were younger in your career? What are you modeling yourself as number one on the call sheet as a producer, as you become powerful enough to make these changes?
I remember when I was making this movie, The Great and Powerful Oz, and Sam Raimi was the director, and every time my daughter would come to set, he would say, "Stop, stop, stop, everyone. Here is our most special and honored visitor." And then he had her sit next to him. She had her own chair, and it was right at his monitor, at the director's monitor, and she would watch takes with him and talk to him about them. And then one time he told me this story that one time he was getting sort of upset, frustrated with something, and he felt this little tiny hand reach out and touch his arm. And he was like, oh, I really needed her there in that moment. And there she was. So I'd had little examples of that, where, and that was an amazing movie to be on too, because there was a costume department and they made her a skirt that matched mine and a tiara that matched mine. So I'd seen a little things like that. And then I've, my husband and I made this show Fosse Verdon together, and I saw how he opened up space to allow people to do their best work, a really safe, exuberant, harmonious environment full of yes, and when we started on this job and I realized, oh my God, I'm number one on the call sheet. Oh, okay, it's up to me. Oh, okay. Take a deep breath, grow up, and make the thing. Be a part of making the thing the way that you want it to be, and find that extra energy that isn't just going straight into your work. Find that extra energy to spread out the workplace and think what would be good, and then and then ask and then be a part of making the yes happen. So it was really exciting for me because it was a new experience for me, and I got and also, you know, when you look around and you see so many women, you're like, okay, we have got to, if they're going to give us this opportunity, and it's a show about women, directed, produced, written, starring, maybe we can rewrite some of these rules here.
To that, and I do remember Jenny saying, I believe the direct quote was, "It seemed like there was also always an ice cream truck there." And
we know food is central. We know what makes us happy, and it's honestly having something nice to eat to look forward to.
Well, so much of this show is about taking care of people, and I think that, again, just it filtered into the whole process. How can we keep taking care of each other? Also, the show goes to a lot of dark, really hard, really painful, really sad places, and so how do you keep joy in the air? Like, how do you get through the day? You know, Liz and I read all of these books about sexual trauma and about the people that work, do the hard work of, like, the doctors that work with patients and, like, hear these horrible things, and it's like, how do they get through at the end of the day, those doctors? And it's always like, it comes back to connection, friends and family, laughing, joy, finding those moments at the end of their days. And, like, I think we needed to take care. Everyone knew, like, that we needed to keep that in mind throughout the process, because in order to ask people to go to these really dark, sit in very painful areas, like thematically and emotionally, especially, you know, Michelle and Jenny, who were there literally in almost every scene. So, but often they were the source of the ice cream trucks. Like, so it was like, again, they're doing everything. It was amazing.
I don't know where these ice cream trucks are.
Maybe Jenny didn't get the ice cream truck, but she did other things. Maybe, I think Michelle you definitely got a lot of trucks. There were definitely tacos, pizzas from Michelle. Like,
Very important. I wanted to ask you too, Nikki. As Michelle and Kim talked a little bit about how the show made them think about dying differently, I'm wondering if for you, the unique experience of making this show and then maybe even watching the episodes back made you think about anything differently that you hadn't already in this, what I imagine has been a long process of being immersed in this topic and material.
It gave me more depth to Molly. Like, when you're going through grief and you're in the hospital, you're kind of on autopilot a little bit. You're just kind of one foot in front of the other and doing what you need to do. And in this process of watching the podcast be released, watching the show be shot, getting dailies and watching the show, each one gave me a different level of new grief. Like, I just knew when there was a first, like, I'm getting the first script, I'm getting the first day, I get to watch the first raw cut of episode 1. There was a new level of grief. And one thing that I've learned is that the grief is just like love just coming out, right? It's just, it's loss, but it's really an expression of love. So I just felt so happy and grateful to get new layers of grief, because when people pass, we kind of just keep going on without them, and we have a holiday or a moment or a picture, but I keep getting these new ripples of grief and love of Molly, and I've never experienced that. I've never loved someone so deeply. I've never fallen in love with someone more after they've been gone. Like, this is a very unique experience that I've gotten to do, and that is not lost on me. So I'm just really forced to be super present now, I feel like, in moments. Like, I'm so taking you in this moment. Like, I will not forget this, right? Like, I won't forget this moment. And so it causes me to kind of, every time something cool is happening, I stop and I soak it in and I look and I take little snapshots. So it's enhanced my life deeply. Yeah.
You're going to get such good snapshots when you go to the big awards show. I'm going to end us on asking about, selfishly, my favorite scene from the series, which is, and I won't really spoil it if there's anyone who hasn't seen to the end, but there's a moment where you dance to the song Heart and Soul. And
That's your favorite scene.
and I instantly added it onto my Spotify, and it absolutely will be showing up in my Wrapped at the end of the year. But I just wanted to ask about, I don't know, there's something about dancing scenes, how you picked that song, just what your memories are of this kind of, just getting to be so free on screen and dance to this incredible 80s, I think it's 80s song.
Well, it's funny, so much of this show feels like it's about the way that we grew up in the 80s. And so I think it was Shannon had said, oh, we're looking for a song for the rally.
Remember the moment.
And I said, it's Heart and Soul, T-Pow.
Michelle literally was there doing another scene and somehow had her phone out and was like, play. And
It's my jam, okay? That's my song.
So
That's my
Michelle chose
that's
that
me
song.
driving in the minivan, just jamming out with Heart and Soul.
So the dance, it came easily. It's something you're I'm actually always
That's my
doing
anthem,
this.
yes.
So we'll just capture it on camera this time. Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for chatting and for making this show and for being so generous with your thoughts on it. I'm sure everybody appreciates it. So thank you for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.